Okay. One Piece chapter 1074, color me completely interested now because, dude, I kind of like what Oda's doing here. We got a little bit of a glimpse of what it seems like it's going to be Kuma's past, and we got to see a little bit of Bonnie's reaction to it. Just enough of a tease. Oda's clearly going to revisit that because Bonney has a line of she has to know more about her father's past, and right now, she's not ready to handle it. And you got the whole thing of Vegapunk last chapter saying, like, you know, your dad told me to make sure that you never learn this truth. So I kind of feel like Oda's going to give us this in bits and pieces. But just a little bit we saw, this was clearly something dark right here. So I do like seeing that. And I also like how we see how the World Economic Journal is essentially taking this scoop that they have about the world government attempting to try and assassinate Vegapunk, and they're taking Luffy being there on Egghead and they're spinning the whole thing, and it just kind of shows you again like the layers of corruption that exists in the world of One Piece, as well as all the backstabbing that goes on with the world government, with the World Economic Journal, and even with some of the royalty. I like how Oda isn't afraid to visit some of the darker aspects of humanity and some of the darker parts of just society in general. I thought this was really good. So I like how the chapter does open up where you see Kuma and it's the Pacifista, and essentially it's doing all this damage, and you got people telling them like, hey, you need to stand down. Why are you attacking your men? Who's giving this thing orders? This doesn't make any sense right here. I like how in the midst of chaos, you still see people trying to find logic and reason behind what could just be a situation that nobody calculated for. So I did like seeing that right there. And I like how what Oda's doing is planting the seeds that there's something else behind the Kuma pacifist going crazy. And I like how after this, we see Sentomaru getting informed about everything that's happened on the battlefield. And he thinks back to Luffy saying that he's going to get Vegapunk off of the island. And you can tell that he's a little bit pissed off about the situation he's in. I did like confirmation that Sentomaru is alive. I did kind of fall for a trap. I thought Oda might have killed the character also. I did like getting that bit right there. And what I like here is that Sentomaru basically says, okay, like the Navy keeps looping in its communications in order to prevent us from getting updates. So I guess I'm a rebel now. So we see more of just the whole thing of the backstabbing continuing. And this is something that the world government brought on themselves. So I did like seeing that. And essentially Sentomaru deploys all 50 of the pacifists out. He's making his move right now. And he's basically saying this doesn't smell right. The Navy's doing something crazy. We got to make sure that Vegapunk gets off of this island alive. And what I like about that is that it ties in brilliantly with the end of the chapter itself. So I like how Oda looks like he's playing the long game. Like this should be a short arc, but this feels like this might actually be a long arc. Because again, like I'm used to Oda doing like a short arc after the really long arc, like something we got with Wano. But this one feels like this might be, if not a short arc in the sense of it's longer than expected, but it might be something like how, you know, Water 7 was a prelude to Annie's Lobby. This feels like this might be something similar to that, or kind of like how Impel Down was a prelude to Marineford. This feels like this is setting the stage for an even bigger, more monumental arc. This is interesting how Oda is just slowly putting all these chess pieces into play. And I like how in the midst of all that, he still manages to inject some of the comedy. And for me personally, it doesn't really ring hollow. It doesn't feel like it's just forced to see Luffy being goofy. It's still, after all these chapters, almost 1,100 chapters, it still feels very natural that Luffy's just an idiot. And Luffy is making you laugh as a reader. And what I like here is that when Luffy's like, we gotta find Bonney, I'm getting super exhausted, I don't have the allowance in order to pay for these damaged hover boots. As soon as Luffy learns that they can locate Bonney on that huge monitor, he's like, why didn't you just say something earlier? Mention that. I like that. That was absolutely hilarious. And I like how we continue to see more of the gathering around of the Straw Hats and the Vegapunk clones. And one of the things we find out is like Frankie's like, well, if you can't locate Vegapunk using that super duper computer of yours, then what good do you think we could do actually searching for him? So we're going to spend a little bit more time here on Egghead. I guess what Oda's doing is essentially trying to stretch things out a little bit longer in order to get us with Kizaru and Luffy. That's probably going to be a matchup that happens. I'm going to be very curious to see how Oda pulls that off, because it's clear that he's stretching this bit off. However, I'm not necessarily mad at it because, again, like the interactions we have with the Straw Hats, it's funny enough to where I'm intrigued. Like you got Sanji, where Sanji wants to go super simp mode when he sees Stussy. Nami's walking off like, yeah, we need to find Vegapunk. And it's just like, and we need to find my treasure too. And I'm like, yo, this bitch right here, man. Nami is dead set on trying to find her some treasure. I love Nami, man. Like, this girl always got her nose for treasure. She's like, there's an island. They got all this research here, but they probably got some money. I'm about to get rich. I love that. That's one thing you can count on. Like, Luffy's gonna be an idiot, and Nami is about to rob you blind. And Sanji's about to be a pervert. And also Zoro, no sense of direction. Essentially, Zoro's like, hey, I'll go look for him too. And I like how all the Straw Hats like, hey, why are you going to go look? And even Nico Robin takes me out at this point. Like, she's like, be a good boy, won't you? She's basically saying, you got to stay behind. Like, we ain't about to get lost looking for you because you got lost. And I like how Zoro just plays off as he's talking to Luffy. He's like, yeah, I guess they can handle like a little search and rescue mission. They don't really need me. Like, it's little small stuff like that. Like, again, like One Piece is one of those few manga that I read where I genuinely feel like a little kid all over again. I know I've been saying that for the last few reviews, but it's one of those things where I genuinely have a smile on my face every single time that I'm reading the chapter. Oda's got a gift, man. Oda's got a gift because I will psychoanalyze every single thing I see on a panel. And I'm just so caught up in the story and the world building and the characters that I don't sit there and think too heavy on it because I just want to see what's going to happen next. That is the art of a good storyteller. And I like how Luffy's like, yeah, man, I can't believe that we ran into these guys again. And he just throws it out there. I hope the ice guy's okay. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Water 7, Iceberg. You had the Gali La La. And basically you had CP9, who are really, now you got a couple of the members being CP0. But back then you had CP9 where they were pretending to be the shipwrights and everything and looking for the blueprints that Iceberg had. So I kind of feel like that's tying right back in. And because of the relationship that Tom and Frankie and Iceberg and Vegapunk, this is going to be very interesting. Oda is pulling back a few different things. Now, when we get to Bonney and she's seeing Kuma as a child and he's getting beat on, it's one of those things where like you see Bonney trying to get closer and she can't get closer. And I'm assuming that's just because this is a memory, so she can't really interfere in it. And you see her crying as she's watching the pain that her father is enduring when her father was a child, from what it looks like. And what I like here is that Bonney is just moved to tears as she's watching the whole thing. And then she eventually gets kicked out of the memory itself. And because you see Kuma just climbing up after that, it kind of makes me wonder if Kuma doesn't know that Bonney has gotten into that memory. I don't think that that panel placement was done by mistake. I kind of feel like Oda put that there on purpose. Now, we close off where you have Morgan and he's like, yeah, you know, this is what we're going to put on the paper. Straw Hat Luffy, Emperor of the Sea, wages all-out war with the Navy at Egghead, holding Vegapunk hostage. And what I like about this is that he's basically like, this is going to be O'Hara incident all over again. I know exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to assassinate Vegapunk. We're going to be seeing history in the making right here, and I'm going to get rich right off of that. And when Vivi hears it, Vivi's like, Luffy would never do something like this. And Wapol's like, yo, he's keeping us safe. Don't piss this man off. However, what I like about that, though, is it kind of confirms something that, you know, one of you guys told me down in the comment section. This was years ago. But one of you guys told me down in the comment section on my first channel, Kryptonian saying, you guys like, hey, like, I know you really wanted Vivi to officially join the Straw Hat crew, but if Luffy would have taken Vivi, the world government would have spun it like he kidnapped the princess of Alabasta, and that's going to lead to an even bigger problem. And I don't remember exactly what year. This would have been 2018, so I'm not sure how far One Piece was back in 2018. However, the thing that you guys said is like that would have been a bigger problem for Luffy, and it would have made him a marked man with the world government. And now I kind of see why, because I guess you guys picked up on Vivi's family being more important in the sense of like the families that happened with the Void Period and everything in the original kingdom. So I kind of like that, and I like how Vivi is being slowly thrust back in there. And again, maybe it's because I just love the character, but I like what Oda's doing here. Again, you can see where the small chess pieces are beginning to start slowly falling into place here. So my chapter question to you guys is going to be, how do you feel about what Morgan's doing right now? Is he a necessary evil, or is he just in it for his own profiteering?